Good evening, everyone. I am Maria Carpenter, the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations here at Bridgewater College, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's virtual event, Catching Up with Coach Bragg. We look forward to the day that we can once again gather safely on campus, but in the meantime, the Alumni Office will be hosting a variety of virtual alumni events, as well as video series that help keep us connected even when we can't be closer than 6 feet apart. This session will be recorded and posted on our new YouTube channel, Bridgewater College Alumni Relations, as well as our alumni Facebook page. At the end of tonight's event, there will be a Q&A session, so please ask all questions via the chat feature at that time. First, we would like to welcome head women's lacrosse coach, Rachael Bragg.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, everyone. Hey, how are you doing?
Good. I'm really excited to have everyone join us and to actually do this. Like Maria said, it's a strange time, but I think, we're months in, so I think we're starting to potentially get the hang of it. So yeah, we're really excited.
Absolutely. And just to start, Coach Bragg, are you able to tell us a little bit about how you all have pivoted due to COVID and kind of what you're working on now, since, you're not exactly in practice season yet, but some of the things that you're doing to prepare for when you are able to be back at practice again?
Yeah, so this year we were allowed through the NCAA, they moved the mandatory weeks. So we used to have 19 weeks in previous years and non-COVID years. To this year, we have 114 days for the whole year. So this fall, we were able to have 10 weeks of practice for 3 days a week, and they would consist of an hour and a half. And we wouldn't be able to go any longer than that. So the team, we're still meeting 3 times a week. We're still practicing 3 times a week. We've done a variety of phases to make sure that we are staying safe. Student athletes are masked during contact drills. So it's just allowing us to focus more on the fundamentals in the fall, which is really helpful because a lot of times in preseason, we don't have a whole lot of time before we start playing. So the 30 days this fall has been really nice.
That's great. And that's great to hear how you guys are adapting. And, when you need to wear masks for contact drills, you are using them, but just kind of figuring out how to pivot your normal workouts and exercises to fit, 2020. So
right.
I'm sure that's different than you originally anticipated, as for all of us, but that's great to hear. And then what have you guys been doing as well in terms of team culture and things like that? I think with 2020, it's been a great opportunity for people to focus on what's most important and kind of get off the busy hamster wheel. With sports, it was, not competitions, but, games and matches and tournaments based on, what program it is. So I'm just interested to hear if you guys have been working on some of those other components since you're not, competing right now.
Yeah, so currently we are reading the 25 words from Kevin Eastman's Why the Best Are the Best. So we have 2 more weeks of words. So we meet every Monday night at 7:15, and I call it's our book club. So, we're talking about words such as accountability, selfishness, communication, passion, a lot of the words that all coincide with the pillars of our program, but just give a little more definition as to how to become better, stronger, more mentally tough than, just me saying, these are our pillars and this is what it means to me. And this is how you have to complete them, and we're done. They're a huge part of the process. The whole team is, everybody has a voice. And so after we finish the words, we are going to be doing a personality test so that everyone can kind of see, how I like to communicate, how I take constructive criticism, things that I still have to work on, how I take positive feedback, things like that. And so everyone will be going through that process as a team overall, and we'll be talking about it. And so they get to know their teammates better for on and off the field. And then we'll also be going through our team pillars: accountability, communication, hustle, respect, and family, and kind of define them for our 2020 team.
Yeah, that's incredible. That sounds awesome. The communications major in me is like fluttering hearing the different personality type stuff. But it's true, because I mean, it's just like in elementary school when they talk about visual learners or auditory learner, just all the different types. And it is the same thing with the team. It's a similar approach to understanding how each of your members of your family works, as you said, building a family.
Absolutely. And everybody's different. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned throughout my time coaching in general, is every student athlete has a different type of communication style, personality. Your relationship's going to be different with them than it is with somebody else who you've known longer, or, we work really hard to get to know all of our student athletes with their skills on the field and how hard we can push them. And then off the field, we work really hard on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm sure you see a direct result in the, positive increase in talent there, and stuff, because if you understand what makes them tick as a person, then you understand what can take them to the next level as a player, and then you can just grow from there. So that's great.
Yeah.
At this time, I would love for you to introduce the other coach that's joining us this evening. So I will pop off for 1 second and let you introduce and talk a little bit with the other coach joining us today.
Sure. My assistant is also on the call, Taylor Frombaugh. She is in her 3rd year with us at Bridgewater, and she came from Elizabethtown in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and coached there for 2 years before joining our Eagle family. The two of us are the face of the program when we go out and recruit and host events. So we wanted to make sure that everyone saw both of us. Hey, T.
Hey, what's up?
Just living the life. Taylor, anything else you want to add to your background?
I don't think so. You did a pretty good job.
Oh, thank you.
And Taylor, is there anything you want to share about working, with Rachael, and how you guys have developed a good relationship as head coach and assistant coach? Because I think that can be so important to build, a cohesive program, is being able to have 2 solid member, and I know there's other people involved, but 2 direct solid members of the coaching staff. So when you are recruiting and doing other things, is they, prospective students see that dynamic and are like, okay, this is a full team experience. They're on the same page. I can get on board with this. If there was just anything you wanted to share about that.
Yeah, I think we have very honest conversations with each other and face in the office and in front of the team. It's always we, it's not I. And, we use that language around each other and around the team for them to buy in into what we are trying to build here at Bridgewater, and just continue to get better day in and day out.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Taylor. And if on that same note, either of you, I don't know if Rachael or Taylor would prefer to introduce our special guest this evening and have her join us, and you all ask her some questions and kind of talk a little bit about her experience with Bridgewater Lacrosse.
Oh, I'll do that. So our guest tonight is Paige Hennessy. She played all 4 years at Bridgewater. She's really been helpful. Team is everybody has a voice, and so our guest. Sorry about that. But she's really been helpful to both Taylor and I. We've worked really hard to try and get reconnected with the alumni. That's been one of my goals since I got here, just with the coaching changes. So Paige has definitely helped us out with that. And she was a great player for Bridgewater women's lacrosse. Definitely one of the top. So we're really excited to have her. Hi, Paige.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Taylor. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Before Maria comes back, why don't you tell us a little bit about like your experience on the team and, positional, any changes you had there, how many, things like that.
So just to start off the team, I mean, my freshman year, I was super homesick. So a lot of people know I'm from Dover, Delaware originally. So being 4 hours away from home, I mean, I almost transferred out the fall of my freshman year. So I was not a fan at first, just because I was very, not very outgoing, being away from home and not knowing anyone. And my coach that recruited me, Kim Lowry at the time, got in contact with some of the leaders on the team, and, just kind of told them my situation. And they all reached out and made sure that I felt welcome to the team. And so honestly, and I say that, I mean, even to this day, the team and the players that I was around, not just my freshman year, but all 4 years, really influenced me to, stay. And they were just so helpful in any way possible. I mean, from classes to lifting to just becoming a better player on the field. They were there for me all the time. So that's one of the biggest takeaways from the team, is just that tight-knit community that you have when you go to a small school. I mean, lifelong friendships. I'm still friends with a majority of the girls that I played with all 4 years. I lived with most of them all 4 years. So we were just all super close, pretty much did everything together. We all pretty much majored in, health and exercise science classes. So it was really cool to, always have classes with each other. Surprisingly, we never got tired of each other either. But I think, again, that just comes from, again, being at a small school. Our coaches that we had, I had 2 different coaches. One, I was there over my 4 years. The culture that they developed and built is just something that, I took a lot of those lessons that I learned from them and my teammates, and have carried that into my coaching now. I've entered my 6th year of coaching at a local high school. So I have definitely tried to build that same type of culture that I was around all 4 years. And my players at the high school level really seem to respond well to it.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing more about that, Paige. That's great to hear. And one of the things that stuck out to me that I wanted to ask for you to share more about, if you're willing to, is about how you mentioned the tight-knit community, which is something that we always, I don't want to say we pride ourselves on at Bridgewater, but we talk about, is that you're not just a small fish in a huge ocean. It's still competitive and it's still rigorous, but you feel more of a connection and more of a small group feel and a family and, all those things we were kind of talking about. And when you mentioned, the lifelong friends you make, did you have kind of any examples or stories of times that you have reconnected with people, or ways that, friendships you built ended up having this great, lasting lifelong impression, or, the way you guys have crossed paths in the future since BC?
Right. So for example, 2 of my really good friends from the team, Peggy Russell, she was a year older than I was, and Claire Palimo Ray, she's 2 years younger than I am. They both live, so we are in the Fredericksburg, Stafford area, and they both live not that far from me. They both coach at a local high school as well. So it's just awesome to be able to, still talk to them, especially when we're out in the field, and just share some different ideas and concepts that we, learned when we were at Bridgewater, and to just bring to our high school teams now. So that's really been cool. I've really enjoyed being able to reconnect in that way. And then just, of course, with everyone else, just keeping in touch with them as best as possible. It is hard when not everyone lives so close, but it's amazing how a lot of us left Bridgewater and still, stayed in Virginia, which has really been nice.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned in terms of coaching, does that mean that you're coaching now for a high school?
Yes. So I coach at a local high school in Spotsylvania. And so yeah, obviously it's been different as well because of all the COVID restrictions. Our season ended short last year. And so we've just are getting back into the swing of things now. And hopefully we do have a season come April. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything that you would say you took from your experience as a player, for lacrosse at BC that you now carry with you as you're a coach for your high school lacrosse team?
Definitely some of the memories and some of the, I would say a lot of the drills and just the way the coaches that I had at the time, some of the speeches that they had really stuck with me, and how they approach different situations is definitely something that I take into coaching now. I always try to put myself back in time and try to remember exactly how certain situations were handled, just because some of those do come up now with the high school girls. So those are definitely things that I try to take away and apply now to my coaching.
Absolutely. And Rachael, were there any questions that you had for Paige about ways that, well, I guess not as much questions, but kind of comparing where the program was, when Paige was a player and now where we are, a little over 5 years later, and just kind of, as teams evolve and as programs continue to grow, some of the differences between maybe when Paige was a player versus now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, obviously I was not there when you were a player. But I think hitting on kind of, you have been back to campus, you came back for our alumni game last fall, and just kind of seeing the team, and getting back together with everyone. Like, how would you say, even the college has changed since when you graduated?
Well, there's just been so many upgrades to the athletic facility, and I was very fortunate to have had the new, the locker rooms, the athletic training room. But there's just so much that's changed, even with the fields, the new library. And I know there's been upgrades done to the KCC. So there's just a lot that has definitely changed. All the awesome, gear that you guys get for the girls. I'm very jealous. So just things like that. There's definitely been an upgrade to just a lot. I just noticed a lot with like the athletic facilities, and just following you guys on Instagram and seeing all the new things that you guys do with the social media. I guess that wasn't a huge thing back in, 2012 to 2015.
That's all Taylor. I don't touch it. That's all Taylor.
Taylor does a great job with that, but it's really awesome. And that's how I've been able to stay connected, is just being able to be on Facebook, Instagram, and kind of keeping up with the games and practices. And I think that is what I really like about what you guys have done. I mean, I know you've done a ton for the program, but that is just one thing that's really nice for alumni to be able to, still stay connected through the social media aspect of it.
Absolutely. And that's why, like, Taylor does an awesome job with it. But, the alumni connection, parents follow us, recruits parents follow us, other club teams, other colleges. So we definitely love to portray what we get to experience every day.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's a great way to help, show off the program, and it's by word of mouth, like even when I post things too about Bridgewater, like, I mean, who knows who's out there that, might want to play at Bridgewater or even just attend Bridgewater. So it's a great networking avenue too.
Absolutely. And Taylor, on that topic, talking about, alumni involvement, would you be willing to share some ways that either you have stayed involved with the program or ways that you would encourage other alumni who might be watching, to stay involved? Obviously, monetary donations are important to keep a program going, but not everyone is always, able to do that or able to do it consistently. So also sharing some other ways, whether it's donation of equipment or just time or visiting, if there's just anything you would like to share about that.
Yeah, I think all of it kind of goes hand in hand in what you can commit or contribute at that time. And just kind of going off social media, I think the first thing is to follow us on social media if you can. We also have an alumni Facebook page that I think Christine developed for us. And we have about 50, 60 members. So there's a lot of, Paige can speak on that. There's a lot of alumni conversation through that. And just kind of word of mouth of when events are and attending those events, and just if showing your face when you're on campus. We had Missy Jones, her niece we're actually actively recruiting her for our 2021 class, and actually came with Morgan, her niece, 2 weeks ago. And so it was a little mini reunion on campus. She was able to see Kurt Kendall. So just, alumni that are in the area, if you have that chance to step onto campus, let us know you're there, and we can have that conversation face to face and get to know you even more if you happen to not be able to attend an event that we put on.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Taylor. I think that's really helpful for alumni watching to hear. And then on the same token, Paige, if you want to share any ways that you have either, done some of those examples or other ways that you've stayed involved with the program, just to give a real life example.
Definitely. So I try to every year donate to the program, just because, being a player for 4 years and going through fundraising and, being privy to, how much money we get for meals and when we go on trips and things like that, I know what the program is using the money for, and I know what it's going towards. And so that's why I feel it's so important to give back. And plus, Bridgewater and the Bridgewater lacrosse team helped me so much grow into the person that I am today and the teacher and the coach that I am. So any way that I'm able to give back, I obviously try my best to do that each and every year.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. It's great to have a real life role model, of a active alumni for everyone to, watch. And the equipment one was one I heard at a previous catching up with a coach event where someone mentioned that's just something I never thought of, but they said, yeah, I work at this college or university, and, not that they would use it for, games or things like that, because it's not branded properly, but sometimes there's places that they're like, oh, well, we're done with this, kind of equipment that's still great to use for practice. So that's something that had never crossed my mind before. But that is one way to be involved as well, as if you have some kind of connection, or if you're working somewhere where they have high quality and high grade equipment that we may be able to benefit from for practice usage or something, like reach out to Rachael, reach out to Taylor, say, hey, I work at this place and they're going to be getting rid of this stuff. Is this something you guys could use for practice? Would this be beneficial? It never hurts to ask, and just see more ways you can help. And then another one I heard that was interesting that would help recruitment. So that's something that the coaches would find helpful, is they said, if you're in a Virginia area, it doesn't have to be Virginia, but you're reading the newspaper and see that there's this incredible women's lacrosse player, or something at a certain high school. I know a lot of times with lacrosse, it may not be at every school, but some of them that do offer it, and stuff, and say, hey, send that name to Rachael or send that name to Taylor, and let them know, like, hey, in where I live, there's this incredible player that might be interested in playing at Bridgewater or something like that. So that's just to share some examples that there's more than one way to, be involved and try to help out with the program. Rachael, did you have anything to add before we moved into some question and answer?
I think the biggest thing that we want to keep building with our alumni is just getting to know all of you. I think it's really important, and you guys played a huge role to where our program is today. And even when I took over the program as head coach, I know for my college program that those people they're my people. They're still my people. And they're the ones that I turn to. And I think just having that huge community for our current team and future players to come is just so beneficial and so helpful overall with them building those relationships with you. So hopefully COVID, we find a way that we can still have events and we get all of you back on campus, because I know that the team definitely missed our alumni game this year. That was a really fun time. And we really enjoyed it too. I died a little reffing, but it was a good workout. So we're really excited to just have that tradition and start that once we can.
Absolutely. I know everyone is eager to be able to be back on campus, especially for homecoming. You know, that's something that obviously we weren't able to celebrate in person this year, but we are crossing fingers, toes, and all limbs for, 2021 to be a safe year where we can celebrate and you guys can have that alumni game. And hopefully it doesn't stress Rachael out too much, but, we'll wait and see. Just depends.
Yeah, we'll see.
But that's great to have people back and involved, and what better way than to be motivated in competition, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone there's athletes, so
oh yeah.
it's in their blood. But at this time, I would love for those who are watching, if you have any kind of question that you would like to ask one of our coaches or our special guest Paige, feel free to enter it into the chat feature. And if you are watching on Facebook, you also could comment it, and I'll be monitoring those in just a moment to see if we have any questions on there being asked. And while we're kind of waiting for that, I have a question for Paige. Sorry, Paige.
That's okay.
Not to put you on the spot or anything, but I was wondering if you could share one of your favorite memories of, being a part of BC Lacrosse.
Oh man, there's so many. Let me think.
You can list a few, whatever comes to mind.
So probably one of the first memories that I have is from, and I even said this during, I think, one of my interviews that Taylor did over the summer on their Instagram page, but the Virginia Wesleyan game my freshman year, that is probably by far one of my favorite memories of one of our games that we played. It was a neck and neck game the entire time. We were going back and forth. And I just remember at one point we were down by 1. I ended up tying the game back up. We went into double overtime, but we ended up winning in the end. It was just a great game overall. And I wish that a lot of our games were that exciting all the time. But unfortunately it doesn't always happen. But that definitely, I will always remember that game and how tired I was afterwards running midfield. I was dead. Needed my inhaler for sure. So that was definitely my favorite game memory. One of my other memories from my sophomore year that I will never forget, and everyone knows about this because I went into the KCC after practice. I lost my tooth sophomore year during lacrosse practice up on the grass soccer field, so that everyone knows that story. I got hit in the mouth with the ball. I didn't have enough time to turn when we were doing this awful 2v2 drill in the middle of the circle. I hated it. And when I turned around, my teammate threw the ball towards my mouth, and my reaction time, I didn't even turn my back, put my stick there, just let it hit my mouth. And I remember my roommate, Peggy and Brittany at the time, they started laughing at me because they thought I was laughing, and I was usually dramatic and did stupid stuff at practice all the time. And then they realized that I was screaming and crying, and then, the tooth came out, the blood everywhere. So that was a very interesting day. One of my teammates took me to the dentist. And then, I went into the KCC with a purple, lip, missing tooth at the time. And they were able to put it back in. But I went back out to practice the next day, and my coach was like, "You're insane." She was like, "You can take as much time as you need." And back out. I didn't want to sit on the sideline. I just couldn't do it. But those are probably my two big memories from the team. Obviously, there's so many more. I could probably write a book about them, honestly. So
you can write a book and then we'll sell it at the alumni game, and the
Yeah,
profits will go to the lacrosse program. Just spitballing ideas here.
yeah, and a lot of the stories aren't even from me. It's from everyone else. So.
No, that's great though. I love those memories. I'm sorry one of them was more painful, but still memorable.
I can laugh about it now. And I had to wear, I had a mouth guard for obviously the bottom. I had to get a mouth guard for the top. And then I had to wear one of the field hockey masks for the girls when they were doing corners for a whole month. I wore that at practice. So everyone called me like Jason. I was wearing the Jason mask. And I had to wear clear goggles underneath of it. It was a disaster. I don't know how I played games with it, honestly. I couldn't see out of the peripheral. So when people were swinging their stick, I had no idea. So.
Do you have any pictures just on hand you can show of that? Or no kidding?
I do actually. But yeah, that was a real treat. That was a interesting year for sure.
That's great though. Thank you for sharing. That's
yeah, of course.
It's genuine.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too often. I know.
And then our next question is actually for Rachael and Taylor, so you guys can take turn answering. But the question, let me pull it up right here, is what has been the most rewarding aspect of coaching the women's lacrosse program?
I'll go. I think for me, this was my first head coaching job. So I still am very eager to continue to develop our program. This is my 4th year. So I think for me, the most rewarding thing, not just that's been at Bridgewater coaching our wonderful student athletes, it's coaching in general and the impact that we have and how we can help develop them into strong leaders and strong females to help them get everything they can out of the real world. And just having those teaching lessons that they might not like at the time, but they'll say thank you later. And, just seeing them continue to develop as young women from their freshman year all the way to their senior year. This is the first year that I've had my seniors all 4 years. So that's really exciting to see. And at the end of the day, if I can help them grow and benefit and teach them what, helps them in the long run, that's what's most important and most rewarding for me at the end of the day. T?
I think to kind of, go off that a little bit is that smile on their face when they finally get a concept on the field that we've been working on for a couple practices. Or, it's not always about X's and O's. So that smile when they get a good grade in the classroom, or, the juniors and seniors get internships because you help them or proofread a paper or help them with the resume for a job after college. And so I think the most rewarding thing is seeing them be successful both on and off the field and getting better day in and day out.
Absolutely. Thank you both for answering that. I think that's great for people to know and, understand kind of, we were talking about what makes players tick, but also, what makes the coaches tick and what is really rewarding for you guys as coaches, especially right now when things are topsy-turvy and, not exactly going as planned. Let me pull up our next question. I believe it was for Paige. So Paige on deck. See here. Okay, here it is. And this is actually something that everyone can answer. So this doesn't just have to be Paige now that I'm reading it again. But if you were to describe BC women's lacrosse in one word, or I guess I should say your experience with lacrosse in one word, what would that word be and why? I know we really sound like a high school SOL question, like SOL essay question right now.
In one word.
Maybe Rachel will go first.
You want me to go first?
I'm trying to think of one. You said the team or just lacrosse in general?
You pick. It could be either. The question was open-ended, so it could go either way.
I'll go. Speaking on the team, and they are very close. They are loyal to each other. They have each other's back. They are always looking out for each other, both on and off the field when it comes to academics, going to the KCC to grab food. I mean, they literally do everything together and make sure that no one is left out.
And going off of what Taylor said, I know I said that earlier, that we were really close when I was there all 4 years. And that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I, had from the team. I mean, obviously I learned a lot too, but just having that support system, especially being away from my parents, being away from my normal friend group that I grew up around since I was in middle school. So just knowing that, they would always be there for me. If I needed, some help in a class, they were there. If we needed to go lift, I mean, someone was always available. And so I think that's what I really enjoyed about being on a team, is always having that tight group, pretty much like 24/7.
It's my turn. I would say dedicated. Not only to each other, so kind of going off that same concept, but they're dedicated to getting better every day. And that's something that we push, just not on the field and from practice to practice, but in the classroom. Like, they know if they don't do so well on a test, Taylor and I aren't there to yell at them or reprimand them. It's how can we do better next time? And that's kind of the concept of how we go along with a lot of things. But most of the time, they've beaten us to even asking that question. They already have a plan in place. Like, they are dedicated to get better in the classroom, on the field, with their home life, with their personal life, everything. They want to just be better. And I don't think that you could ask more from a group of 24 young women.
Absolutely. I mean, that's such a, commitment in terms of the sport itself, but also the commitment of dedicating yourself to a sport on top of academics and everything going on, and still being dedicated, especially during a COVID year where, like, I don't know when your practices are going to be, but I imagine some of them may not be during fun times. Some of them may be earlier in the morning or later at night, or whatever needs to be done to make it work in order to balance all the other, teams that are going to be trying to be in season at the same time. So no, that's great. That is actually all the questions that we had, that people had asked. Was there anything else, Rachel, that you wanted to share, or Taylor or Paige, with the group, kind of in conclusion before we wrap up for the evening?
I mean, Paige answered all of my questions. I feel like she kind of hit on them during the interview, and Taylor answered really well. I feel like, having Paige and having the two coaches and Maria, you leading, you kind of get an insight to more of what it's like from our end and from alumni, and, how we want the program to continue to be portrayed from alumni, and all the support that we are given by them is huge, and we could not appreciate it anymore. Like we said, it doesn't have to be a donation, just anything that you can provide us, you know, your time, your stories, those are huge. We love hearing those stories. So we just want to continue to get to know y'all and build this relationship, and you get an insight as to what we're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Rachel. I think that is so important. As you know, an alumni office, we want to continue to keep everyone connected, especially when we're not in a position to have visitors on campus, you know, so they can't necessarily pop into your office right now, but they can pop on Zoom, you know, or on Facebook Live and say hi, or watch later via YouTube. So that also is a note to all the attendees watching. Just a reminder, this recording will be posted on our YouTube channel. So send it to all of your BC lacrosse friends or non-lacrosse friends. Anyone can watch, you know, anyone who might enjoy it. And Taylor and Paige, did you have anything else that you would like to add?
Just coming from an alumni side, Rachael and Taylor, thank you for, you know, starting the alumni games. We played in one my freshman year, but other than that, you know, we didn't have them when I was in college, and then we didn't have them, you know, right when I was a graduate. And just also how you guys have started, you know, events and always try to get us together in some way, and keeping us just informed with how the team's doing. And like I said, that's awesome coming from alumni to be able to see how the current team is doing and what you guys are doing at BC. So thank you again.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to do this call with us tonight.
Of course.
Well, thank you, Rachel and Taylor, for leading the program and, you know, leading us tonight. Well, and when I said program, I guess you could say both programs, literally the lacrosse program, but also the program this evening. You know, and for connecting with alumni, like I said, you know, when we can't be connected in person. And of course, thank you so much to Paige for joining us and sharing a bit about your story at BC, and also, you know, how the program has affected you now into your adult life. And thank you to everyone watching tonight. Just as one more reminder, we will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel, so feel free to share it with your friends, watch it there. We appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Stay safe and go Eagles. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.